Every week, millions of us perform the same ritual, standing over our recycling bins, sorting plastic, glass, and paper, convinced we're making a difference. We rinse out containers, read the little numbers on the bottoms, and feel a flicker of pride, a momentary satisfaction that we're doing our part for the planet. We've internalized the message: if we recycle, we're helping. But the reality is more complicated and, frankly, much darker than we've been led to believe. The truth is, the recycling bin has become a symbol of hope. But behind that symbol lies a system that's fundamentally broken. For decades, the world's largest corporations have sold us the myth that recycling is the solution to our plastic problem. This isn't just a misunderstanding or a civil misstep. It's a deliberate strategy, a smokescreen that allows the biggest polluters to continue business as usual while shifting the responsibility onto us, the consumers. Let's look at the numbers, because they tell a story that's impossible to ignore. Globally, only about 9% of all plastic ever produced has actually been recycled. In some countries, like the United States, that figure drops even further, barely 5%. That means out of every 20 plastic containers you thoughtfully place in your blue bin, maybe one will find a new life. The rest? They're destined for landfills, incinerators, or even worse, the world's waterways and oceans. You might wonder why so little gets recycled, especially when we're all following the rules. The answer lies in the economics and logistics of recycling, which are far more complicated than the simple act of tossing something in a bin. Most plastics are contaminated by food residue or mixed materials, making them difficult or impossible to process. Even a tiny amount of leftover food or grease can lead to entire batches being discarded. Add to that the overwhelming variety of plastic types, each requiring different processing, and you have a system that's expensive and inefficient. It's often cheaper for companies to make new plastics from scratch than to recycle the old ones. So how did we get here? How did recycling become such a central part of our environmental consciousness, even though it barely works? The answer is a masterclass in corporate public relations. Back in the 1970s, as environmental awareness grew, plastic waste was piling up, and people started to demand change. Companies that relied on single-use plastics, think soda, snack, and packaging giants, felt the pressure. They feared bans and regulations that would hurt their bottom line. Instead of rethinking their products, these corporations launched massive ad campaigns and formed front groups with names designed to sound eco-friendly. The core message was simple: plastic isn't the problem, people are. If only everyone recycled, there'd be no issue. They introduced the now ubiquitous recycling symbol, the 3 chasing arrows, stamping it on as many products as possible, regardless of whether those products could actually be recycled. The result? A powerful greenwashing campaign that made us feel like responsible citizens, while companies continued churning out more and more single-use plastics. Even when plastics do get recycled, the process isn't the closed loop we imagine. Most plastics are downcycled, turned into lower-quality products like park benches, fleece jackets, or carpet fibers. These products can't be recycled again, so their next stop is the landfill. In other words, even in the best-case scenario, recycling simply delays the inevitable. But for most plastics, the journey is even bleaker. For years, wealthy nations shipped millions of tons of plastic waste to poorer countries, claiming it was being recycled. In reality, much of this waste ended up in open dumps, burned in the open air, or swept into rivers and oceans. This practice, sometimes called waste colonialism, has created environmental and health crises in countries that lack the infrastructure to handle the deluge of foreign trash. Meanwhile, global plastic production continues to soar. It's predicted to triple by 2060, overwhelming any improvements in recycling technology or capacity. Every single day, the equivalent of 2,000 garbage trucks full of plastic is dumped into our oceans, rivers, and lakes. And plastic doesn't biodegrade. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces, contaminating water, soil, and even the air we breathe. Microplastic. Plastics have now been found everywhere, from the deepest ocean trenches to the peak of Mount Everest, From the water we drink to the food we eat, they're even inside our bodies, with scientists still working to understand the long-term health consequences. The scale of the problem is staggering, and it can't be solved by simply recycling more. The industry's latest promise is chemical recycling, which claims to break plastic down to its original components. But these technologies are unproven at scale, extremely energy-intensive, and may even generate more pollution than traditional landfilling. In many cases, chemical recycling is just another form of incineration, releasing toxic gases and greenhouse emissions. It's another distraction, another attempt to delay real change. So if recycling isn't the answer, what should we do? The first step is to recognize that the solution isn't found at the bottom of our blue bins. The real power lies in refusing, reducing, and reusing. We need to demand that companies take responsibility for the waste they produce. Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR, laws can force manufacturers to pay for the collection and recycling, or better yet, the redesign, of their packaging. When companies bear the cost of their own waste, they quickly find ways to make packaging truly recyclable, or even better, reusable. We can also support bans on the most wasteful single-use plastics. Think straws, bags, and foam containers. Humanity lived for millennia without these conveniences. We can adapt again. Supporting businesses that offer refillable, returnable, or package-free options sends a powerful message to the market. But perhaps most importantly, we need to stop blaming ourselves and each other. The plastic crisis is not the result of individual laziness or ignorance. It's the product of decades of corporate manipulation, designed to keep us distracted and divided, while the real culprits escape scrutiny. The feeling you get from tossing a bottle in the recycling bin? That's a feeling you were sold. The power you feel when you demand change from corporations and policymakers? That's the power they fear. It's time to move beyond the recycling myth and focus on real solutions that hold polluters accountable, prioritize reduction, and build a future where waste is designed out of the system altogether. Our recycling bins won't save the world, but our collective action just might. Thank you for joining us on this journey to uncover the truth about plastic pollution. If you found this information helpful, consider supporting our mission by liking, sharing, and subscribing. By spreading awareness, we empower others to make informed choices and demand real change. Together, we can challenge misleading narratives and push for solutions that protect our planet. Remember, knowledge is power. Let's use it to create a cleaner, more sustainable future for everyone. Be sure to watch the other videos we have produced.